Hi guys, so the past week we talked about plate tectonics, and now we're going to start talking about how those plates actually move on our Earth. So the first type of movement we're going to look at is called convergent boundaries. So a convergent boundary is going to be explained to us in this quick video.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science and different types of convergent boundaries. Convergent boundaries occur when tectonic plates move towards each other and strike one another. If you look at this map of the major plates, you can notice several that are convergent boundaries. As these plates move and strike one another, you may get earthquakes, volcanoes, or deep trenches. There are three major types of convergent boundaries: oceanic and continental lithosphere, oceanic and oceanic lithosphere, and continental lithosphere. Oceanic and continental convergent boundaries occur when oceanic crust subducts underneath the continental crust. The oceanic lithosphere has a greater density than the continental lithosphere, and as it collides with the continental crust, it subducts underneath the continental lithosphere. As it sinks, magma is formed and begins to rise to the surface and may form volcanic mountains. Earthquakes may also occur and deep trenches may be formed. An example is when the oceanic Nazca plate subducts underneath the continental South America plate. At this location, the Atacama Trench has been formed in the ocean, and the volcanic mountain Lascar is located on the land. When oceanic lithosphere collides with oceanic lithosphere, a similar event occurs. The older oceanic crust is more dense than the younger crust and subducts underneath. As it subducts, magma begins to rise to the surface, and this can create volcanic island arcs. An example is the portion of the North American plate covered with ocean subducts underneath the Pacific oceanic plate. The Aleutian Islands have been created from this collision. When continental strikes continental lithosphere, neither crust subducts, nor is magma or earthquakes occur. These two graham crackers illustrate what happens. The two plates buckle and create folded mountains. An example is the Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate and creating the Himalayan mountain range. I hope that helps with different types of convergent boundaries. Thanks for watching, and Moo Math up.
So this video kind of just went over a quick summary of convergent boundaries, and we're going to keep talking about the different convergent boundaries.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science.
So like the video said, convergent boundaries are when tectonic plates collide and come together. So they are moving towards each other. There are three types of convergent boundaries. We have our continental and our continental, our oceanic and continental, and our oceanic and oceanic. And we're going to talk a little bit more about each of these. First, we have continental and continental. So when two continental plates collide and come together, that is a continental-continental convergent boundary. These continental plates are low in density and very thick. So when they collide together, they form those mountains, which is what we saw at the end of the video with the two graham crackers. An example of this, like the video said, are the Himalayas. They formed because the Eurasian plate and the Indian plates converged together. So they came together and created this whole mountain range. And it's actually where the tallest mountains are found. So next we have our oceanic and continental convergent boundary. So this is when oceanic and a continental plate converge. So that's when an oceanic plate and a continental plate come together. The oceanic plate will subduct or go underneath the continental plate because the oceanic plate is more dense. So think about a really thin and dense piece of plate and a really thick and not dense piece of plate coming together. The denser one is going to go underneath, which is the oceanic piece. And the word subduction, this is a word that we will need to be able to recognize and understand. So subduction means that a tectonic plate is sinking or going underneath another plate. And at an oceanic continental boundary, we have ocean trenches, volcanic mountains, which are volcanoes on land, and there will also be earthquakes. So here are some examples. The Andes and the Peru-Chile Trench are an example of an oceanic and continental convergent boundary. So that's where this plate, which is oceanic, and this plate right here, which is continental, come together. And they have created two things. So there is a trench underwater, and then you have a volcanic mountain range on top on land. So these have formed as the Nazca Plate and the South American Plate have come together. Lastly, we have our oceanic and oceanic plate convergence. So this is when two oceanic plates come together and the denser oceanic plate will subduct. Remember, that means to go underneath the less dense plate. So usually this is our older plates. The older plates go underneath because they are more dense. And one more time, I'm reminding you that subduction means when a plate sinks or goes underneath another plate. At this boundary, we will get deep ocean trenches and island arcs. So island arcs are volcanic islands. So it's different than volcanic mountains. These are in the water, and this also causes earthquakes. So let's look at our examples. The Mariana Trench, which is the deepest trench in the world, over 35,000 feet below the Earth's surface, that is an example of an oceanic convergent boundary. This formed when the Philippine Plate subducted under the Pacific Plate. So we have our Philippine Plate right here, which is oceanic, and our Pacific Plate, which is also oceanic. The Pacific Plate is older, which means it is more dense, so it went underneath the Philippine Plate. And the result was two things. We have volcanic islands, notice they are in the water, and the Mariana Trench. And just a quick fact, the Mariana Trench is actually deeper than Mount Everest is tall. So if you look right here on the side of this picture, this is how tall Mount Everest is, and the trench, which is underwater, is actually deeper than the entire mountain. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that is our last slide. So remember, there are three types of convergent boundaries, and all three of them, they are coming together. So convergent means coming together.